Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Baisley,
Excused.
Bridges,
Excused.
Buckner,
Excused.
Coleman, Cutter, Danielson, Exum, Fields,
Excused.
Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Hinrichsen, Huckes Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Liston, Lundeen, Marchman, Moreno, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Priola, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez,
Excused.
Simpson,
Excused.
Smallwood, Sullivan, Van Winkle, Will, Winter, Zenzinger, Rodriguez. Mr. President,
Here. The morning roll call is 30 present, 0 absent, 5 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Thornton please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Will.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal of Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
Ayes have it.
The aye has it, and the motion is adopted. Senate Services.
February 22nd, 2023, correctly printed. Senate Bill 167, correctly engrossed. Senate Bills 8, 12, 28, 35, 36, 52, 57, 68, 77, 86, 90, 95, 96, 100, and 110, correctly revised. House Bill 1034, 1045, and 1053, correctly enrolled. Senate Bill 119, 124, and 125.
Committee reports.
February 21st, 2023, the Committee on Mr. President, the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed member of the Uninsured Employer Board for a term expiring September 1st, 2025. Roger Allen Hayes of Aurora, Colorado, to serve as a representative of employers reappointed. February 21st, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar confirmed. Member of the State Plumbing Board for a term expiring July 1st, 2026, Justin Guerrero of Greenwood Village, Colorado, a person engaged in the construction of residential or commercial buildings as a plumbing contractor appointed. February 21st, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar confirmed. Member of the State Electrical Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2025, Christopher Butler of Highlands Ranch, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the public at large, reappointed. Alva Diane Lynch of Commerce City, Colorado, to serve as an electrical contractor who has master's license, reappointed for a term expiring July 1st, 2024. Jeremy Sanchez of Loveland, Colorado, to serve as a general contractor professional occasioned by the resignation of James Selicki of Denver, Colorado, appointed. February 21st, 2023. The Committee on Finance, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following Senate Bill 16 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following Senate Bill 148 2043 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following Senate Bill 66 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. February 21st, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Finance has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar. Confirmed. Member of the Advisory Committee to the Property Tax Administrator for a term expiring September 1st, 2026, Keith Allen Erfmeyer, Parker, Colorado, to serve as an assessor from a county with a population over 75,000 and as an unaffiliated reappointed. February 21st, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Local Government and Housing has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar. Confirmed. Members of the Middle Income Housing Authority for terms expiring September 1st, 2024, Tamara Pogue of Dillon, Colorado, to serve as an elected county commissioner from a rural county. Appointed Hillary Cooper of Telluride, Colorado, to serve as an elected county commissioner. Appointed Jackie Millett of Lone Tree, Colorado, appointed for terms expiring September 1st, 2025. Darren Everett of Denver, Colorado, appointed Thomas Bryan of Centennial, Colorado, appointed Keo Frazier of Denver, Colorado, appointed Dominique Acevedo of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a nonprofit organization that has experience developing middle-income housing. Appointed Carl Coble of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative with experience in the development of rental housing. Appointed for terms expiring September 1st, 2026. Chad Asark of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative with experience in real estate transactions. Appointed Peter Lafari of Littleton, Colorado, to serve as the director of a local housing organization. Appointed Mike Johnson of Tabernash, Colorado, to serve as a representative with experience in public financing. Appointed.
Third reading of bills. Consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the titles to all of the bills on the consent calendar?
Senate Bill 57, Senator Rips, Representative Taggart, concerning the removal of the duty of county treasurers to be ex officio district treasurers for special purpose districts providing drainage and irrigation services. Senate Bill 68, Senators Pelton, R. and Exum, Representatives Lukens and Pugliese, concerning modifications to the operations of a public hospital board of trustees created by a board of county commissioners. Senate Bill 77, Senator Henriksen, Representative Froelich, concerning prohibiting the inclusion of certain terms in a broker engagement contract. House Bill 1034, Representative Doherty and Soper, Senators Gonzalez and Simpson, concerning measures to expand post-conviction DNA testing. Senate Bill 100, Senator Gardner, Representative Snyder, concerning the Uniform Community Property Disposition at Death Act. Senate Bill 95, Senators Janal and Gardner, Representative Soper and Doherty, concerning criminalizing unlawfully pointing a laser device at an aircraft. Senate Bill 28, Senators Gonzalez, Representative Epson, Soper, concerning the penalty for committing any of a certain offenses involving the operation of a commercial vehicle. Senate Bill 90, Senator Gardner, Representative Snyder, concerning the enactment of the 2022 amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code. House Bill 1053, Representatives Hartsock and Ortiz, Senators Zenzinger and Rich, concerning the authority to accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations, and in connection therewith, authorizing the Division of Veterans Affairs to expend gifts, grants, and donations in support of the Western Slope Military Veterans Cemetery, authorizing the Department of Public Safety to accept and expend gifts, grants, and donations in support of its purposes, and creating the Department of Public Safety Gifts, Grants, and Donations Fund. Senate Bill 8, Senators Moreno, Representative Lindsay, concerning opportunities for youth involvement in the review of the state's education standards and in connection therewith, making an appropriation. Senate Bill 12, Senator Winter F. and Henriksen, Representative Catlin and Froelich, concerning the enforcement of safety requirements for interstate motor vehicle carriers and in connection therewith, making an appropriation. Senate Bill 36, Senators Pelton B. and Cutter, Representatives Armagost and Ortiz, concerning a change to the application process for the property tax exemption for veterans with a disability. Senate Bill 86, Senator Hansen, Representatives Hamrick and Soper, concerning Student Leaders Institute modernization and in connection therewith, making and reducing an appropriation.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on the third reading consent calendar, which includes Senate Bills 57, 68, 77, House Bill 1034, Senate Bill 100, 95, 28, 90, House Bill 1053, Senate Bill 8, 12, 36, and 86.
Before that, will the clerk please add Senators Bridges and Baisley to the roll? Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of all of the bills in the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes on any of the bills? Senator Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 68, Senate Bill 8, and Senate Bill 86.
Senator Van Winkle will be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 68, Senate Bill 8, and 86. Senator Smallwood.
Morning, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 86.
Senator Smallwood will be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 86. With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused. Senate Bill 57 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Roberts, Liston, Exum, with a vote of 31 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 68 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Roberts, Priola, Exum, with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 77 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, House Bill 1034 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Rodriguez, Bridges, Colker, Jaquez Lewis, Cutter, Marchman, Majority Leader Moreno, Janal, Priola, Sullivan, Van Winkle, Will, Roberts, Smallwood, Exum, please add the president. With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 100 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Colker, with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 95 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Roberts, Smallwood, Hanson, Priola, Marchman, Colker, Rich, with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 28 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gardner, Priola, with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 90 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Priola, Rich, with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, House Bill 1053 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Bridges, Sullivan, Marchman, Priola, Smallwood, Janal, Mullica, Roberts, Liston, Will, Gardner, Kirkmeyer, Rodriguez, Colker, Cutter, Winter, Exum, Minority Leader Lundin, Pelton B., with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 8 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Hanson, Mullica, Exum, Minority Leader Lundin, Marchman, Bridges, Henriksen, Cutter, Priola, Winter, Sullivan, Correction on the vote count for Senate Bill 8. The vote count was 31 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 3 excused. Members, we're going to redo co-sponsors for Senate Bill 8. If you want to be a co-sponsor on Senate Bill 8, please raise your hand. Senators Hansen, Mullica, Exum, Gonzalez, Sullivan, Bridges, Marchman, Priola, Cutter, Winter, Henriksen. Thank you. With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 12 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Jaquez Lewis, Hansen, with a vote of 32 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 36 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Van Winkle, Hansen, Gardner, Will, Pelton R., Rich, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Minority Leader Lundin, Exum, Mullica, Colker, Jaquez Lewis, Gonzalez, Janal, Zenzinger, Marchman, Bridges, Sullivan, Henriksen, Winter, Roberts. With a vote of 31 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 86 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Marchman, Winter, Rodriguez, Colker, Bridges, Majority Leader Moreno. Third reading of bills. Final passage. Will the clerk, you good? No. We will stand in a senatorial 5. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 52?
Senate Bill 52, Senator Hinrichsen, Representative Martinez, concerning a municipal priority lien that a county treasurer is required to accept for collection if a municipality follows a specified procedure.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 52 on third read and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 52. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Gardner, Rich, Minority Leader Lundin, Baisley, Pelton R., Will, Van Winkle, Pelton B. With a vote of 21 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 52 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Marchman, Gonzalez. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 96?
Senate Bill 96, Senators Roberts and Lundin, Representatives Amabile and Soper, concerning policies relating to in-state tuition classification at state-supported institutions of higher education.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move for the passage of Senate Bill 96 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 96. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 96 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Gardner, Pelton B., Pelton R., Kirkmeyer, Rich, Hanson, Exum, Will, Majority Leader Moreno, Kolker, Janal, Rodriguez, Marchman, Priola, Cutter, will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 110?
Senate Bill 110, Senators Marchman and Zenzinger, Representatives Kipp and Taggart, concerning transparency for metropolitan districts.
Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move SB 110 for third reading and final passage, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I'm pleased to be able to join the good senator from Loveland in presenting this important piece of legislation to you today. Many of you know that I've been deeply engaged in introducing policies that create greater transparency and accountability for metro districts. And just 2 short years ago, we were successful in passing legislation that required things like increasing notification to eligible voters in a district about the nomination process, requiring websites with budgets, annual reports, board member contact information published, new disclosures to purchasers of newly built homes. This bill has been very gratifying because it's been encouraging to hear that some of the individuals who opposed our efforts earlier are now touting our efforts' success and the importance of continuing our work in this space. Today, we're building on those efforts that we began with Senate Bill 262 by creating additional accountability and transparency measures in Senate Bill 110. The measures that were presented to you before you today acknowledge the need for additional protections while taking a precise approach to creating these sidebars. We appreciate your careful consideration of this legislation and ask for an aye vote.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Given the acute housing shortage in Colorado, metro districts can initially appear as an affordable way to finance new development and give people the opportunity to purchase homes at a low upfront price. Developers create a new governmental entity, issue themselves bonds, and finance new construction in order to avoid raising taxes. This sounds reasonable so far, but things get much worse upon closer inspection. The developers who run these metro districts do not stop at financing honest construction. They write entire constitutions enshrining massive public debt, exorbitant interest rates, and shady election rules that work in their favor, all before anyone who has to live with the consequences has even moved in. They set their own debt repayment limits and make them far more burdensome than any other democratic government would allow. Metro districts allow big developers to create their own fiefdoms and place their own financial interests over the livelihoods of thousands of unsuspecting Colorado homeowners. Developers and investors assure us that establishing metro districts lower the cost of buying a home, but in reality, the houses purchased in metro districts are often more expensive than similar homes elsewhere. The property taxes that come down years down the road can explode in size, up to 40% more compared to the homes outside of metro districts with no oversight. Homeowners find themselves facing either infinite payments to their metro district or losing their homes, and developers hedge on that bet. If not enough homes in that district are sold, no matter. The homeowners who do move in must repay the debt, even though the cash pool is much smaller. Just how bad has the metro district crisis become? Metro districts in Colorado owe a debt 100 times the size of Colorado's entire state government. And that was 3 years ago, before COVID-19 threw debt ledgers off of the deep end. And if this sounds unsustainable, it is, because many metro districts have already begun defaulting on their debts. And when this happens, it is homeowners who foot the bill. This is a classic example of an attack on taxpayers. Let big developers roll the dice with our money and either get rich or get bailed out on our dime. Surely there must be a way to stop this, because these are, after all, public entities. Metro districts are run by an elected board, bound by a constitution, and in a transparent district, residents would be able to run for election and take up control. However, many metro districts purposefully make election information difficult to come by. So, given that, I want to say that even in the rare instances where residents take control of their district board, the system ensures that they remain beholden to developer interests. That, colleagues, is the backdrop to Senate Bill 23-110. As I stated both during the hearing and during second reading, I'm appreciative of any mechanism to attempt to increase transparency. But this bill falls short of truly advancing clarity for the people who live within metro districts. Section 4 of this bill creates a mechanism that purports to advance transparency, but in fact, there is no security for a taxpayer or authorizing municipality if a municipal financial advisor renders a letter declaring that all is okay with the private bond issuance. In fact, in a related party transaction, the entity hiring the advisors is the district board, which has a director purchasing the same bond issue that the advisor is opining on. We heard compelling testimony in committee from an individual who serves on the board of directors of a water and sanitation district, the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District in Lakewood. And I want to end by quoting her in her words, because she is involved in litigation herself from a special district against a metro district. And she says the following: most residents do not have the money to stand against metro districts and developers. Even for a special district like mine, most districts would have backed down rather than pay for legal costs. My district has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this issue. In fact, and this is the date of her testimony, we're in appeals tomorrow on a case that was found in our favor in district court, but we are suffering. I urge you to help us not by disclosing unethical behavior, but by stopping it. Colleagues, it is in her words and on behalf of thousands of taxpayers who live in metro districts across this state that I ask for a no vote on Senate Bill 23-110.
Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the sponsors for bringing this bill. I reiterate the comments made from the good senator from Denver on anything that can be done to increase transparency. I appreciate. However, just based on principle, I have an issue with one area of this bill, and that is on page 5, line 13, the common financial powers. To me, this doesn't limit the issuing of secondary debt. This talks about debt to a director of a metropolitan district or an entity with respect to which a director must disclose conflicts of interest under section 24-18-109. This type of debt, this section is meant to limit that debt that they can buy themselves as a director to certain interest rates. The first section, it says, certifying that the interest rate of such debt does not exceed the lesser of the current market interest rate for the debt, or the interest rate based on a 30-year constant maturity index plus 400 basis points. Now, for my colleagues that don't know what 400 basis points means, we're talking about 4%. Adding 4% as your cap to the existing debt index, I think is too much. So for that reason, I'll be a no on this.
Is Senator Zinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I recognize the critiques of metro districts. And I will tell you that whether those critiques are valid or not, nobody can argue with improving and increasing transparency, which is what this bill does. What this bill does not do is fundamentally restructure metro districts. It doesn't fundamentally change the way that they are currently in statute. And I understand that for some people that is a problem, and that's why they are opposing this bill. But I will tell you that what this bill does do are positive things, and it certainly does not make the situation any worse. Does it eliminate metro districts? No, it doesn't. But what does it do? Well, the bill does a couple of important things that I'd like to highlight for you first. We have heard criticism of metro districts. We have heard from folks say that their taxes can increase without their knowledge, and that their metro district taxes will continue in perpetuity. So what is our response? We, in Section 1 and 2 of the bill, very specifically addressed that criticism. So what the bill does is we are placing caps in the city and county approved service plans. We are capping the debt. We're making sure that a board of county commissioners or a municipality approves of the service plan where it is outlined in black and white that the maximum debt service mill levy and the maximum debt that may be issued by the district is spelled out in plain language cleanly. Secondly, we have heard from people that when they attend meetings at the Metro districts, the annual meetings, that they're not given an opportunity to directly engage with board members outside of a public hearing. They have questions and they never get answers. They don't have an opportunity for engagement or for a dialogue. So that's what Section 3 of this bill does, is it requires that at Metro District annual meetings, they must provide a public comment series for citizens, and they must respond at that public meeting. For some of you that have been in local government, that have served on a city council or on a local board, you know that when you ordinarily take public comment, that's all you do. You just sit there and you listen and you nod your head. That's the rules of engagement. We're changing the rules of engagement. We're saying you can't just sit there at the board and nod your head and not listen. You have to respond. You have to have a public Q&A at your annual meeting. We are requiring that. But we went further because we brought an amendment here on the floor that actually said not just those metro districts that were formed after 2020, which is how our bill originally was laid out, but we said all metro districts formed after the year 2000, which are the majority in the state. So we said, retroactively, you're going to have to now follow by these new guidelines around public engagement and transparency, because that's the title of the bill, heightening transparency for metro districts. Section 4, which has been called out by a number of critics, the reason why we have instituted Section 4 of the bill is around developer debt checks and balances and parameters. I have heard the critique about debt. We are not fundamentally restructuring metro districts, but what we are doing is that we heard in testimony from constituents, from my own League of Women Voters, have come forward and said that the developers simply set the interest rates for reimbursement at whatever they want and ultimately allow for the padding of pockets. That is the direct quote that I heard, is that developers are padding their pockets. So Section 4, what does it do? It is a precise way to allow the financing tool, which is the main purpose of the metro districts, to function in markets where the traditional debt market will not finance the early stages of a process or a development, but places specific parameters and protections around this financing to ensure that reimbursement rates are at or below market rate. Not padding of pockets, at or below market rate. And we're saying in black and white with this bill, not just something that we aspire to, but they are required to. And how are we requiring it? Well, we're requiring it, first of all, in their service plan, but we're going beyond that. What are we doing? We are requiring that a municipal advisor, which is defined in statute, who has a fiduciary responsibility, who is highly regulated by the SEC, will certify that interest rate of the debt that it is at or below market rate. And they have to certify it in order for the service plan to go into effect. The debt is required, black and white, mandated, that it mature not more than 40 years from the date of issuance, which is pretty standard. And this section ensures that the debt issued to a developer, again, is at the same or lower rates, and that those terms are issued to the public market. Lastly, in Section 5 of the bill, We address a notion that we tried to pass in our bill 2 years ago. We were unsuccessful. We received pushback from the realtor community. They said, no, we don't approve of that. You can't do that. We continued working with them over 2 years to get to an agreement in order to make sure that realtors and residents that are in the Metro District receive their property tax statement and that they know ahead of time, before they purchase that property, before it is too late for them to back out of their real estate transaction, exactly what they are getting into. This is a disclosure that we are now requiring. Again, this bill is not perfect, admittedly, and it absolutely does not get at the issues that have been mentioned at this well about restructuring or eliminating metro districts. It does not do that. What it does do, on the other hand, no one can argue are good things. It is heightening transparency. It is bringing things to light. It is putting guardrails on behavior. And it is making sure that everything is in the up and up, in full disclosure, up front and in perpetuity. So I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 110. Are there any no votes? Senators Gonzalez, Coker, Rodriguez. With a vote of 29 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 110 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Winter. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 35?
Senate Bill 35, Senators Bridges and Moreno, Representative Herod, concerning the operation of the Middle Income Housing Authority and in connection therewith, adding members to the Board of Directors and expanding the power of the authority to enter into public-private partnerships.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move Senate Bill 35 on third reading and final passage.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 35. Are there any no votes? Minority Leader Lundeen, Kirkmeyer, Rich, Baisley, Will, Van Winkle, Pelton R., Pelton B., Gardner, Liston, Smallwood. With the vote of 21 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Bill 23 is passed. Senate Bill 35 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Henriksen, Marchman, would the clerk please read the title? Exum. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1045?
House Bill 1045, Representatives Evans and Martinez, Senators Pelton B. and Henriksen, concerning leave from employment for state military service.
Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1045 for the third and final reading.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1045. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 3 excused, House Bill 1045 is passed. Co-sponsors. Majority Leader Moreno, Jaquez Lewis, Marchman, Priola, Bridges, Janal, Winter, Rodriguez, Gardner, Kirkmeyer, Minority Leader Lundeen, Rich, Will, Van Winkle, Pelton R., Hanson, Roberts, Mullica, Exum, Liston, Coker, Gonzalez, Smallwood, President Finberg, Zenzinger, the entire, Sullivan, please add the president. Governor's appointments. Oh, we are doing that. Okay. I got you. General order, second reading of bills. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general order, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Gonzalez will take the chair.
Oh, this is new up here. Okay.
Did you leave your big jug up there?
The committee will come to order. The court rule is relaxed. Ms. Cole, will you please read the title to House Bill 1070? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of House Bill 1071.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and we will take up House Bill 1071. Ms. Cole, will you please read the title to House Bill 1071?
House Bill 1071, Representatives Amabile and Bradfield, Senators Simpson and Fenberg, concerning the authority of a licensed psychologist to prescribe psychotropic medication for the treatment of mental health disorders.
Senator Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move House Bill 1071 along with the the Health and Human Services Committee report.
To the HHS report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Health Committee made several amendments. These were largely in the spirit of collaboration with folks who were originally opposed to the bill, and I think these amendments found a good common ground. And Senator Mullica, or the good senator from Thornton, just to remind everybody, the chair is not authorized to make fines. Only the president can do that. Madam Chair, the Health and Human Services Committee was a good one that I think brought some good compromise and negotiation on the bill and got folks to a good place.
Is there any further discussion on the HHS committee report? Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to the good senator from Boulder, I want to thank him as well as the senator from Alamosa. He is right. There was a lot of good work that happened in the committee, and we were able to really find some solutions here and really achieve the goal of making sure that we get more prescribers and providers onto the market. We know that our communities need help, and we know that we don't have enough providers on the market. But we also recognize, too, that physicians bring a certain level of expertise. And psychologists bring a level of expertise in the area that they practice as well. And so we were able to find those solutions. We were able to make sure that both entities are working together, marching forward together, and making sure that the patient is getting the best results. And so just want to be up here from the committee's perspective and the amendments that we passed in the committee and give a huge kudos to the sponsors and to those who have worked on the bill for the work that they've done. So thank you.
Further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of the HHS committee report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As kind of previewed in the committee report discussion, this is an important bill that I think folks are on very different sides of it, and we found some really good common ground. And I appreciate everyone coming to the table because this is about an incredibly important issue that is impacting every one of our districts, and that is the mental health crisis that we are seeing, and ensuring that we are making steps to provide more access, to make sure there are more providers to be able to prescribe life-saving medication for those in need. We did make a lot of progress. A lot of changes have been made, but there are a couple of technical changes that still need to be made, mostly because of oversights. And so we have a couple of amendments today on seconds.
There is an amendment at the desk. Ms. Cole, will you please read L16 to 1071?
Amendment L0.
Senator Fenberg,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L16.
to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a technical cleanup. This is a change that we made earlier in the process where we changed the word clinician to physician, and we missed it in a couple of spots, and this is just completing that change.
Is there any further discussion on L16? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L16 to 1071. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that amendment is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Ms. Cole, will you please read L18 to 1071?
Amendment L018 by Senator Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L18.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. L18 is at the request of DORA to make sure that prescribing psychologists that are authorized under this bill fall under the provisions of the PDMP.
Further discussion on L18? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L18 to 1071. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and L18 is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Ms. Cole, will you please read L19 to 1071?
Amendment L019,
Senator Fenberg,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move L19.
to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, has the same intent as the previous amendment and just adds prescribing psychologists to make sure they fall under the provisions of the PDMP in a different area of statute.
Is there any further discussion on L19? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of L19 to 1071. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and L19 is adopted. Senator Fenberg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, thank you for your time this morning. This is an incredibly important bill, and I especially want to thank the senator from Alamosa who is out sick today, but felt that it was important that we move this bill along in the process. I also want to thank everybody who, again, came to the table to really work on this. Folks didn't say, no, never, we will never get on board with anything that smells or looks like this, what this bill is trying to do, but folks came to the table really trying to figure out a path forward. So thank you to the physicians, the psychiatrists, all the different providers and advocates who really worked together on this. This, I think, strikes a good balance because in a matter of years, when after this bill is implemented and folks have utilized what it allows for, the hope is that we will have more folks who can prescribe and be able to provide really important services to folks all over the state of Colorado. It makes sure that we do it in a way that protects patients, that ensures that the folks who are going to be prescribing psychologists are trained and are medical professionals that are skilled to be able to provide those services. they have to go back to school, quite a bit of school. So these are going to be people that very much are trained and highly skilled at what they will now be authorized to do. And there are a lot of checks and balances to ensure that that the prescribing psychologists are following what this law requires, and also have a partnership with the patient's physician to ensure there are an extra set of eyes on everything that is happening. So really appreciate everyone who worked on this bill, and urge an aye vote on House Bill 1071.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I also would encourage an aye vote on this bill. As many of you know that I have been very cautious on bills that do these kinds of expansion and scope of practice. I have, as a general rule, I have voted against all of them, even when I was the one lone no vote. I just feel pretty strongly about making sure that people stay in their lane and operate accordingly. And mostly just out of a concern and abundance of caution for patient safety. And that's why I've opposed bills like this in the past around optometrists and dentists and physician's assistants and whatnot. But I am inclined to support this bill this year for a couple of reasons. I want to thank the sponsors and for the advocates that worked to negotiate some very carefully constructed amendments to this bill. I do appreciate those efforts, and I feel as if they were done with the best of intentions, and it strengthened the areas that I felt might be a little bit weak. I feel at this point that it does have the proper guardrails, but more importantly, I have witnessed firsthand how access to care has been severely impacted by the lack of trained professionals to be able to provide medications. And I have seen this in my own family, and I have received emails from constituents consistently that this is a problem. And when you have such a lack of providers in the community to be able to provide the care that people need, then we have to start exploring other options. And I feel pretty comfortable at this point with this option. I think it was thoroughly vetted, and I really appreciate the work of all of the stakeholders and the bill sponsors in getting it to the place where it is right now, and I would encourage an aye vote. Oh, and I also just want to give a shout out to some constituents who wrote in, doctors who were also at the negotiating table, who really went all in and elaborated in great detail some of the protections that were written in this bill. So I want to thank my constituents as well for reaching out to me about this. It really did help inform my position.
Senator Janal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I, too, rise in strong support for House Bill 1071. At first, I was pretty skeptical about this in regards to who could prescribe these types of medications. But when we worked through the issues and some of the amendments, I found that it was very beneficial. And to have more prescribers and going through this process, educational process that psychologists have to go through, really made me believe that this is the right thing to do, not just for our school children, not just for our kids and families, but I think another thing that stood out to me was we need more psychologists in this that are able to prescribe for seniors, because a lot of psychologists are taking Medicaid and Medicare. And there's that other group that always seems to be forgotten, the seniors. And I rise in strong support because I think that House Bill 1071 will help our seniors and the issues that they face with mental health and behavioral health issues. So I rise in strong support. I thank the sponsors. And I thank the Health Committee for the amendments that we did work on and the bill sponsors for making this a good bill. So, thanks a lot.
Senator Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I rise in support of this bill. We heard it in committee. I think it's a great bill. What I really support in this is that when it gives a psychologist the right to prescribe, it also gives them the right to unprescribe. And in some cases, I think that we over-medicate our children. And in this case, I think this is going to be a great thing because of the unprescribing as well. And I think for rural Colorado, this is really going to be a good bill, especially for behavioral and mental health, especially in rural Colorado. I'm in strong support of this bill.
Any further discussion on House Bill 1071? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1071. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to lay over the balance of the second reading calendar to tomorrow, Thursday, February 23rd.
You've heard the motion. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. And we will lay over that balance of the calendar. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met and had a bill under consideration. Ms. Cole, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1071 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 78, Senate Bill 53, Senate Bill 38, and Senate Bill 61 laid over until February 23rd, 2023, and retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 3 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 23-1071 is amended, passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 2378, 53, 38, 61 are laid over until 2/23/2023 and retaining their place on the calendar. Governor's appointments, consent calendar. Consideration of governor appointments, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Members of the State Board of Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for terms expiring April 15, 2025. Kritika Prashant of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as an unaffiliated and as a president of the 5th Congressional District, occasioned by the resignation of Antonio Rosendo of Colorado Springs, Colorado, appointed. Charles Garcia of Denver, Colorado, to serve as an unaffiliated and resident of the 1st Congressional District, occasioned by the resignation of Rick Palacio of Denver, Colorado, appointed for terms expiring April 15, 2026. Raymond Shalard of Greeley, Colorado, to serve as an unaffiliated and resident of the 8th Congressional District, appointed. Mara Barsi-Wewar of Thornton, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat and resident of 8th Congressional District, appointed. Member of the Parks and Wildlife Commission for a term effective July 1st, 2022, expiring July 1st, 2026. Eden Vardy of Aspen, Colorado, to serve as a representative of Production Agriculture and a member west of the Continental Divide. Reappointed. Members of the Colorado Tourism Office Board of Directors for terms expiring June 1st, 2026. Alexander Boyne of Erie, Colorado, to serve as an at-large member from tourism-based industries. Reappointed. Ken Murphy of Glenwood Springs, Colorado, to serve as a representative of other outdoor recreation activities, small town and small businesses, appointed.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments listed on the consent calendar, which includes members of the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund, members of the Parks and Wildlife Commission, and members of the Colorado Tourism Office Board of Directors.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the confirmation of all appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes on the consent calendar? Seeing none, with 32 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 3 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Consideration of governor's appointments. Would the clerk please read the appointments to the Parks and Wildlife Commission?
Member of the Parks and Wildlife Commission for terms effective July 1st, 2022, expiring July 1st, 2026, Richard Reading of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the public at large. Appointed Gabriel Otero of Fruita, Colorado, to serve as a representative of sports persons and a member west of the Continental Divide. Appointed.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I move for the confirmation of Richard Redding and Gabriel Otero to the Parks and Wildlife Commission.
Is there any discussion? Senator Will.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to come up and not to impugn anyone's character or nothing personal. These are great individuals, but you know, I know they're honorable and decent individuals with ethics, and you know, they're principled people. But more and more, the ag community and the sportsman's community feel like they're not being represented on the commission. Sportsmen are very concerned about appointments of Otero and Redding, and they feel Otero as a sportsman's rep hasn't showed support for hunting and fellow sportsmen at past meetings. Lack of attendance by both of these commissioners needs to be addressed, and also they don't feel that they've been supportive of our hunting community or the North American model of wildlife management. And so I keep hearing from my constituents, been to Wildlife Commission meetings. There's a lot of concern out there from the commission as a whole, but these two individuals specifically, that there's a great deal of concern about the representation. I know and Mr. Otero is a sportsman rep on there. Mr. Redding is an at-large member. But I can tell you from the my constituency and my fellow sportsmen across this state, and more specifically on the West Slope, they are not happy with the governor's appointments on this commission. So I think that's why you'll hear some no votes on these two individuals. They're both good people. I spoke to Otero right before the Senate Ag meetings. Good guy, just maybe needs to step it up as far as being a sportsman rep on this commission. But thank you.
Senator Peltonar.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I sat on the Ag Committee that heard these two gentlemen on their appointments. And I have received over 30 emails with concerns on these two individuals, especially on Mr. Otero with the sportsman representation. It sounds like maybe he's taken some of the criticism he had during the committee to heart, but he really needs to step it up. So, and Mr. Redding, even though he was an at-large appointee, I still was receiving the same amount of emails against his appointment too. So I can't really add on much to what the good senator from the West Slope talked about, but I will be a no vote on those two appointees.
Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. President. I concur with my two colleagues, the good senator from Cheyenne Wells and the good senator from the Rifle. I appreciate what they have to say. I was not there in the Ag Committee. I had a sub come in for me, but I have been getting inundated with emails as well with people that are very concerned. So I will be a no vote as well today for the same reasons. So thank you.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I cannot speak with greater specificity, but I rise simply to amplify a very important concept, and that concept is that you have heard from three senators who represent fundamental, we could say a third, 40% of the land mass of the state of Colorado. And as the state grows in population, in the urban core, the traditions, the principles, the history, the ethic of who we are as a state, that voice gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's why I rise, is to amplify that voice. An individual who invested his entire life in the management of the wildlife of Colorado has spoken. And that voice is critical, and it should be heard with clarity. Gentlemen that represent the agricultural interests from the Continental Divide east, essentially, have spoken, and those voices need to be heard. So I rise simply to say, amen, we're listening, and we hope everyone in this chamber, across the building and the other chamber will listen, and the people of Colorado will know that we are, in fact, listening to the disparate and diverse perspectives that we bring as Coloradans. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank my colleagues for this discussion. The Parks and Wildlife Commission is an incredibly important commission, and so we should talk about this. We should be talking about the people who we are appointing to this commission. And I just wanted to state for the record that when these appointments first came to our committee, I had concerns too. I still have concerns. There are valid concerns that the sportsman's community are raising, that the general wildlife advocates are raising, people who care about the work of the CPW Commission are raising. But we had an intense hearing with these two gentlemen, and they went through it. They got some tough questions from both sides of the aisle in the committee. They talked to us before the committee hearing, answered questions about some missed meetings that they had, some details about their background that were in question. And they stood up, I think. And I think they're ready to serve. They got a clear wake-up call that there are concerns. But they meet the qualifications of these appointments. They're dedicated, I believe, in their answers to us and in their work that they showed to prepare for this meeting, that they are dedicated to this work. And I just wanted to say, Mr. Otero is from Fruita. It's about as close to Utah as you can get and still be in Colorado. His family has been in Colorado since before Colorado was a state. He has hunted and fished his entire life. He meets the qualifications of the sportsman seat. And I do think that he will work with the sportsman community to address their concerns about his individual beliefs, but he is going to be a good representative for that community on this commission and meets the qualifications. So I want to thank these two nominees for going through a very tough confirmation process. I believe that it will make them better commissioners, and I understand the objections, and I think there are still concerns, and we will be monitoring those. But because of what the process that they went through, I ask for your aye vote on their confirmations to this very important commission. Thank you.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, members, a few days ago, I had the rare privilege of serving on the Ag Committee. I think I'll be able to add that to my resume. You know, while serving as a senator, Senator Gardner was on Judiciary, he was on Appropriations, and served on the Ag Committee. So, and on that day, I had the responsibility, along with my colleagues, of reviewing the appointments and taking action on the confirmation of these two individuals. Now, people often say in November, well, I can't decide on this candidate or this candidate. This happens for the president, this happens for governors and others, but one of the things I say to people about voting on the executive, president or governor, is you're not just voting for that person, you're voting for all of the people that that candidate will appoint. You're voting for a government and an outlook and an accountability. And my concern, as I spoke with my colleagues who regularly serve on the Ag Committee, is that in one case, the political outlook of one of these appointees, while a representative of the public at large, it seemed to me that he was more a representative of the public of the Front Range at large. And there's a good deal more to the state of Colorado than Metro Denver. And then the question wasn't where he grew up. The question wasn't, does he hunt or fish? The question is he going to be responsible and responsive and accountable in his position? Now, I understand from the good senator from Avon that these two individuals, at least one of them, has gotten a wake-up call. But our responsibility is not to bet on what they might do, but to confirm them based on their record. For that reason, I will be a no vote. And the reason for taking your time is that I received several emails about my no vote in committee, and I wanted to make record of that for those who asked me, how in the world could I have voted no in committee? My reasons are, as I've stated, I believe they're sound. I recognize that others may disagree, and I have no doubt that these appointments will be confirmed, but in voting as I do along with my colleagues, it is its own statement and message to these appointees that we, as a Senate, will hold them accountable and will be reviewing their performance, as is our responsibility for the executive branch. And might I say that each and every one of these appointments that we take, we need to take them very seriously, because when the people of Colorado voted in November for an executive, they voted not only for the person, they voted for the administration, they voted for the kinds of appointments that would be made. And it's our responsibility as a branch, no matter our party, it is our responsibility as the legislative branch to provide that oversight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the confirmation of the governor's appointments to the Parks and Wildlife Commission. Are there any no votes? Senators Gardner, Rich, Mr. Minority Leader, Will, Van Winkle, Pelton R., Pelton B., Kirkmeyer, Liston, Baisley, Smallwood. With 21 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Message from the House.
February 22nd, 2023, Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bills 1123 and 1151, amended as printed in House Journal February 22nd, 2023. We herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bill 1123 and 1151.
Message from the Governor.
February 1st, 2023, to the Honorable Colorado Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the powers conferred upon me by the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, and submit to your consideration the following Executive Director of the Department of Corrections for a term expiring at the pleasure of the Governor. Moses Andre Stansel of Colorado Springs, Colorado, appointed. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Judiciary. Announcements. Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Colorado applicators are going to be having lunch today out in front of the Supreme Court chamber. Stop by and grab lunch and visit with those people. There's going to be farmers, pest control operators, landscapers, open space, weed managers, pesticide safety educators, and others. So stop by and find out about their industry.
Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we've a moment of personal privilege. Thank you.
Moment of personal privilege has been granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've had a tragic death in my Senate District 1. Sheriff Thomas Elliott passed away from a battle of cancer, and I've known Sheriff Elliott for quite a while. When I was a young man in Cheyenne Wells, he was also a sheriff's deputy, and he was always willing to talk to us kids and made sure to point out whenever we were doing something wrong, but making sure that we understood what we were doing, and I appreciate him. Funny story about Sheriff Elliott, when I was walking in to campaign for this position, I walked in and talked about, as soon as I walked in, he looked at me and says, "No, not you." So he was a very good man. He was very funny, very outgoing, and we appreciate him, and he's going to be sorely missed in Phillips County.
Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Personal privilege is granted.
Thank you. As the good senator from Sterling mentioned, Mr. Elliott started his career in Cheyenne Wells, and I'm sure Byron got to know him. Senator Pelton, the good senator from Sterling, got to know him very well firsthand with some of his behavior. And I also knew Tom in that capacity there, but I never got stopped by him. When I ran in my former district of House District 65, I actually represented Phillips County. Got to renew that friendship again with him, and he was an asset to both communities, and he'll be missed.
Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. President. May we have a moment of silence and request to have the chimes rung.
We will have a moment of silence, and the chimes will be rung.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request another moment of personal privilege.
Moment of personal privilege granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, today we have an exceptional young agriculturalist and future leader today with us. Joining us today is a national award winner in agriculture. Mr. Craig Vollmer placed third out of 51 competitors nationwide. Every year, the American Farm Bureau has a national young farmer and rancher discussion meet, in which winners from each state and Puerto Rico compete. It's not a debate. It's in a setting like a committee meeting or boardroom in which they are judged on how courteous they are, how well they articulate their points, and how they cooperate with other competitors to move their ideas forward. Just to give you a taste of the issues they discuss, one of the questions this year was, how can Farm Bureau effectively support and equip young farmers and ranchers to successfully manage economic and infrastructure challenges to ensure healthy and sustainable farms and ranches across the country. We have debated and discussed these issues in these chambers. Many of the topics they discuss are perennial issues that are debated under the Gold Dome surrounding the challenges in agriculture. Now, the Colorado Farm Bureau members have a history of success in this competition, which is a testament to our farmers and ranchers here in the state of Colorado. The Colorado Farm Bureau has sought to protect the Colorado way of life and ensure the generations of Coloradoans a healthy and affordable food source. It is young men and women like Mr. Vollmer who will be our next generation of farmers and ranchers and agriculture advocates and leaders. Thus, I'm honored today to bring you a joint tribute from the House Chamber today, honoring Craig's success in this competition, and I would like to introduce Mr. Vollmer right now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the Judiciary Committee will be meeting today at 1:30 in the Old Supreme Court. We will be hearing Senate Bill 67. We will be laying over Senate Bill 54 to a later date. And so I look forward to seeing you all promptly in the Old Supreme Court. Thank you.
Senator Janot.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Members of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, we will be meeting upon adjournment. So around at 11 o'clock in room 357, we are going to be hearing the governor's appointments to the State Board of Human Services. So see y'all at 11.
Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Education Committee that was scheduled for today will not be happening today at 1:30. It's been canceled. We will not be hearing Senate Bill 71 today.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, we are going to meet at 11 o'clock up in 352. We have one bill on our calendar, Senate Bill 152. See you there.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seeing no further announcements, I move that the Senate adjourn until tomorrow, Thursday, February 23rd at 9 a.m.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will adjourn until 9 a.m. Thursday, February 23rd, 2023.